My name is Lorri Rowlandson. I work for a company called BGIS. We're a small boutique facilities management company. We're engineering-led. We're not brokerage-led like the typical cast of characters like JLL and CBRE. We're a company of operators, and we're very, very technical in our DNA. We're pretty small. We're just under 8,000 employees globally in Canada, US, Australia, and New Zealand. And we manage around 400 million square feet. So not that big, but boutique. My role in the company as Senior Vice President is the resident mad scientist. I actually literally have a pirate flag hanging over my desk. My job is to help our clients and ourselves coach them into the future and really evolve our offering. So I am a recovering Generation X. I grew up listening to The Clash. I had a funny haircut. I don't color between the lines very well. And if you tell me I can't do something, sure as hell I will find a way to do the hell out of it. So it's a really interesting role in a company. I literally have the best job in the world. But all of this to say, not as a commercial for BGIS, just to let you know, I work with some really deep left brain people, and I'm not typical of our company. But my nickname at work is the Engineer Whisperer. So I try to translate some of the technical things that we do to deliver to the industry and help evolve that. So when I started talking about employee experience, I'll share you a little bit about behind the scenes as well as some of the offerings that will help you. So today's topic is designing wow at work, how to create an ultimate employee experience in a slightly different dimension than what you've heard in the last day or so. I really love the richness of perspectives that we've received over the last day and a half, and I hope to share you another one. So just a quick recap. This is the most exciting time ever to be in our profession, and I feel like I say that every year, but I really do believe that. I'm studying things that you would not expect as a real estate professional. I've spent the last 2 years studying culture and workplace psychology and how to measure experience, because you don't get away with working with a bunch of engineers without measuring everything. So it's just very interesting how we've evolved our profession to be, instead of about real estate and asset management, it's more about the people and how we enable the people and the productivity of the people. I'm gonna talk more about that. Part of that is the war on talent. Employees are your greatest asset and expense. And companies are starting to adopt a very simple philosophy: hire the best people and make them productive. Sounds easy, it's harder than it sounds. So a lot of stats, again, engineers. You've heard a few of them, so I'm gonna zoom past these pretty quickly. But the key thing to impart on you, there's lots of tangible evidence that shows that there's already a significant drop in the available workforce, like the number of people available. So it's not only the number of people available, but the number of A-team players is also reducing as a result, and everybody wants the A-team players. We're about to have more people leave the labor market than to join it. And this is really important, lots of statistics to join that. This is a really interesting global map to show that this is not just something that's unique to North America. This is a global concern, and you can see if any of the countries, there's only 2 countries that are in the green. One of them is Belgium, probably because they have great chocolate. And the other one is France, probably because they eat so much cheese and drink wine and they're happy all the time. But every other country, this is a burning imperative that they're at least most of them are in the orange or the red zone. And again, lots of statistics to show that there's just not enough people available coming online. So that's why we're hearing more about the war for talent. There just isn't enough people. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is employee engagement. There are some really horrific statistics, and we've heard a few in the last couple of days, but one of my favorite publications is HBR. And they've said that only 16% of employees coming to work are fully engaged. They're bringing it every day, they're A-game, they're excited, they're plugged in, which means 84% are either actively disengaged or passively disengaged. And that is a huge productivity drain on your companies if these people are not firing on all cylinders, because they're your number 1 expense. And I don't care what industry you're in, people are your number 1 expense. So if 87% of the global workforce is not engaged, or if is actively disengaged, this is a problem. 85% of the global workforce is actively or passively looking for a new employer. That's from LinkedIn. And 63% of CEOs are concerned about the availability of skills. So this is a mounting crisis. So we know that employees are the #1 expense. If you handle the people like you would any other production of your service or the production of your offering, this is a crisis, and it's insidious, and it's in the background, and we need to pull it to the front so people recognize that we're sub-optimizing productivity. We can't blame it on the fulfillment process or technology. It starts with people. People are any company's greatest asset. And if your company isn't already looking at this, I got some bad news for you. You're not gonna make it. And I give you about 5 years, because it's happening already to you right now. If you saw those statistics and the curves, we're already in a decline of the available resources. You have to wake up. Don't ostrich on this topic. You need to get on this right away. And what'll happen is it's insidious, right? You'll say, why are our competitors suddenly moving faster than us? Or what the hell's wrong with that HR department? Like, why can't we keep people in our company? So you'll blame symptoms versus the cause. And you won't really figure it out, but it's really around employee engagement at the root of it. You need to create a great, exciting culture for your people and not blame the symptoms. You'll blame technology, you'll blame HR, you'll blame your competitors. Why are they moving faster than us? It's all around the enabling culture and productivity that you deliver for your employees. So how do we get employees like this? Clearly a brilliant guy, clearly in part of the 14%. How do we get employees like this guy? So I'm gonna give you 6 tips, and just before I get into them on how to create workplace wow, just as a side note, I have to thank the tech industry for creating an unbelievable, just pioneers on employee experience and workplace. Thank you for the great service you have done and shown us examples of. You've really kicked the door open on this topic, but privately, I confess I may have cursed you at the same time, gently and lovingly, because for the rest of us normals that don't have those high margin business and the kind of budgets that you do, you set an expectation for the industry, and we gotta figure it out, okay? So challenge accepted. I'm gonna give you 6 tips on how to be truly, really scrappy, because I have clients that come up to me all the time and say, I want that thing that those big guys are doing, but I have no money. Can you do that? And so it's created this incredible creative tension on how we go forward. So I'll share with you 6 quick tips. The first one is around providing choices for employees. You've heard different iterations of this. Productivity is so personal. There's introverts, there's extroverts, there's millennials, there's baby boomers, there's people that are further in their career, there's people that are at a junior level or a senior level. People are having a bad day or a good day. People are crazy organic creatures, and their decision of what is productive to them is very personal. So you have to give people choices. I am allegedly an extrovert. So the last place I would go, in my personal conditions, the last place I would go is to the office, because the office is an interruption factory. So I love going to the office when I meet my team, and I haven't seen so-and-so in a long time, and we collaborate, and that's the great place to go. But if I have to read a contract or write a proposal, that's the last place in the world I would go. By the way, you know where else is the last place I would go to do focus work? Is at home. Do you know why? Because I have a Jack Russell Terrier. Anybody have a Jack Russell here? Okay, if you don't know about that breed, they think they're people. Very high energy, and she wants to be involved with everything. And I've literally been on conference calls, or she's on my lap watching what's happening. And I went like this one time, because I talk with my hands a lot, and she gave me the high five, double high five, and everybody on the conference call saw that, and they went, ah. And that means she wants a cookie, so she randomly does tricks and asks me to give her cookies every 10 minutes, so I can't work from home. My favorite place to work, when I have to do heads down focus time, is the biggest workplace in the world. You know what that is? It's actually Starbucks, hey, you know. I love Starbucks because I love good coffee, and there's lots of, or your version of, there's Pete's and other places, but I love the buzz. I love the public anonymity. So when I really have to get something done, I go to Starbucks. My whole point to this is it's very personal. You have to provide your employees with choices and enabling technologies and work settings that make them productive and educate them. Don't show up in that same desk every day. I would never go back to working in that same oatmeal cubicle that I started in. I would never go back to working for a company like that. But you have to teach people to work wherever they're productive and recognize that. So work settings are critical. The bonus item on this is your workspace speaks volumes about your culture and your real brand, and that is part of the enabling experience. So in this space says, hey, top talent, we're an innovative company. Come and work for us and you can change the world. Do you believe them? Hey, top talent, we're an innovative company. Come and work for us and we'll change the world. Which one do you believe, right? By the way, if you ever want to have a fun exercise, take a group of people and walk through your space with a bunch of sticky notes and have them write descriptions of the space. So if this space was a person, how would you describe this space? Write them on sticky notes. That's an actually true emblematic of your culture. Are you really enabling? That's a reflection of your culture. Anyway, fun fact, it's a cool exercise to go through. Number 2 is you're starting to see a lot more infusion of the concierge, workplace valet, workplace ambassadors, experience leaders. There's a whole bunch of different titles of it, but you get the idea, right? It's people that are there to drive convenience and act in servitude of the employees and these constituents in your workplace. So the hospitality industry is crossing over into corporate real estate, which is really interesting. And for us in facilities management, the technical skill pool is getting smaller. We've had terrific success in bringing hospitality recruits over into our industry and training them with technical, because it's harder to train the hospitality, the personality side than it is the technical side. We've had some great crossovers. There's a lot more people in the hospitality industry, and you give them a great career path as well by crossing over. So we've had some great success there. But these people, and if you've ever gone to a 5-star hotel, you know what I'm talking about, right? Everybody who works there takes ownership. They really, drive convenience. They really create moments. They're pleasant. They take responsibility. They'll do anything to make your experience better. So these people really drive convenience. They support the amenities, and they create moments. I think it was the GoDaddy guy yesterday, who their program is just amazing, and talked about if you're within a certain distance, you make eye contact with the individual. If you're within a closer distance, then you give them a greeting. And you're trained, like I actually used to be a police officer before, a separate glass of wine, but we were trained in reading people. And we train these people in reading people as well. So if you see somebody that's at the photocopier and there's steam coming out of their ears, and you go over to them proactively, how's it going? Are you okay? Can I help you? This bloody photocopier is out of toner again, and I don't know. Oh, no problem. I have the key to the supply room. Just wait right here. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I know how to fix it. They come back. Instead of the employee floundering around, try to figure it out, and they're not an expert in photocopiers. Do you really want to have your top talent wasting their time trying to figure out how to replace toner in a photocopier? But more often than that, these people create moments. They also, the one thing I really loved about the talk yesterday from the lady from Salesforce is a crossover from events into real estate. I thought that was fascinating too. And at a micro level, these individuals also create and animate the space. So I loved what she said about think of all of your space as a program and how to animate it. And the FMs become cast members of that space. And I got to tell you a really funny side story. So I report to our global CEO, Gord Hicks, who's an engineer. And about 2 years ago, I went up to him and I said, Gord, we need to turn our facilities managers into cast members. And one of those moments where he looked at me and he squinted his eyes and he tilted his head and he looked at me and there was silence for about 30 seconds. And I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. I finally pushed him too far because I'm so different than the rest of the engineers, right? And he looked at me and he finally went, Yeah, go do that. So we started on a really interesting journey of training and profiling and hiring our FMs that really fit into that experience, so that when they were at a site, they didn't miss an opportunity to be proactive and do something else and really touch the lives of the people there. And my favorite training for this is Disney. There's lots of books on it, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, I have a huge reading list. I read about a book a week. I'll give you a nerded out book list. But I love Disney because, and this is how I explain the example. You guys been to other theme parks, right? Like Darien Lake and the other ones. But if you've ever been to Disney, Disney is the place you actually feel magic after you've been there. You really feel like you've been touched by something really special. It truly is an experience. And what's the difference? I mean, Darien Lake has great rides and great junk food and, you know, all of the same ingredients. The difference with Disney is the training. It's the accountability and the experience that every single one of their members has been trained. Every one of them is cast members, not just the princesses, the person that sells you popcorn, the person that drives the train. Every single one of them gets this Disney University training. A lot of the hospitality industry, Marriott, Hilton, blah, 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 all of them, they go to this Disney University. So we started emulating that. So you know the quote by Maya Angelou, people will forget what you said, but they might forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And so for those of you who think that I've just gone like all woo-woo on you, let me take it back to a science approach to what she's just said, because I work with engineers. So what happens initially is your amygdala reacts in the moment. So it's a pleasure zone or a defensive zone or an attack zone. And I'm paraphrasing, so God, I hope there's no neuroscientists in the audience, because don't judge me, I'm just paraphrasing. But what that makes you do is it gives you an immediate sense of pleasure. So if you have an amazing, you know, giant TV with a waterfall on it, or you have some really cool features in your office, just like materialism for people that are materialistic, it gives you that little dopamine, that little hit in your amygdala, and you love it, and then it kind of blends into the background. And that's why materialistic people are unhappy, and they need a constant cycle of that. So the workplace features in the space are not really what give people pleasure, it's the moments. So, and that's your cerebral cortex. And if you've ever thought back, oh, remember that time we were at the cottage and we laughed so hard? That's what you really connect to in the moments of experience. So there's actually science of the brain, and I'm really doing a lumpy job of explaining and paraphrasing, but you get the idea. It hits a different part of your brain that you appreciate. So how do you actually create that feeling? So number 3 is identifying and crowdsource barriers to productivity. Hire the best talent and listen to what they need. It's as simple as that. So you've heard of ESAT, which is employee satisfaction, CSAT, customer satisfaction. There's an emerging concept called WSAT. So getting people to democratize feedback about what would make them productive. It's very transparent. My favorite company that does this, they survey their employees and they say, one simple question: what would be the one thing we could do to make you more productive? And then they summarize all of that. They rank it according to the most, suggestions, and then they assign a budget to it. And then where the budget stops, let's say they get 72 suggestions, cuts off at number 11. They communicate that out. Hey, thanks for all your great ideas. We can only afford to do 11 this year. But next year we'll do the next tranche. We'll resurvey and get it out. But don't leave it to the management paradigms of what employees want. I'm surprised every time we ask employees what they need to be more productive, instead of guessing. They surprise me every time. So don't guess, ask them. The 4th is, how do you measure success? And how long does it take? So like I mentioned, I'm gonna give you the super speed version of this, because how do you measure culture? There are ways to do it. The most important thing I can tell you is you must do it as a program. So what gets measured gets managed, right? But what gets measured gets valued. So for those of you that are having a hard time convincing your leadership team to invest in this or even evolve, because a lot of this, it doesn't cost anything. If I have a conversation with you, if I thank you, if I have a box of thank you cards and I send them out a week, how much does that cost? It's nothing, right? So you can do these things very cost effectively. The key is do it in a life cycle. Ideas are easy, it's the implementation is hard. So in FM, we're there all the time, right? We're built for that continuous recurring business. So we have to be part of the experience. We love to measure and manage things. So that's really key. Change is not once and done. You have to do it as a program based on data. And you have to do a balance of, I call it passive and active feedback. An example of active feedback is the washrooms are disgusting, it's too hot, too cold, somebody has to do something to actually provide the feedback. Passive feedback is observations. And a lot of your workplace ambassadors are great sensors, people are the great sensors, but you can actually use technology to observe people's behavior and they vote with their feet. So observe that. So here's a quick example, and I'll leave you the slides because I'm just about to go over time, is, we've actually mapped existing client data to what they had. So you don't have to go through big investments. I see a lot of companies that are underutilizing their existing data that they already have. And you know what, it might not be 100%, it might not be perfect, but perhaps security pass data is good enough to look at the utilization of the building. And you don't need dust sensors. Of course, dust sensors, better data, more insight. Number 5, and I'm almost finished, is Generation Zs and Millennials, they crave development. And a shocking statistic is 85% of the jobs that will be available in 2035 haven't been invented yet. And in 10 years, 80% of the technology we'll be using hasn't been invented yet. So if you have children or you have more than 10 years left in your career, you need to develop a love for learning. This is really important. Enable learning. And the last one is have fun at work. And this is also really interesting when you give people at work to have permission. That seems so frivolous. What do you mean? So I've spent a lot of time introducing gamification into the workplace and how you reward the right behaviors. Rex talked about it yesterday, nudge the right behaviors. And so, and also humans, especially Gen X's, they don't like to be told what to do. They like to be inspired. And I think that's a characteristic of all generations, quite frankly. So I've been doing a lot of gamification. And I've done it with apps and low tech and different ways, but find a way to use the gamification principles. Oh, by the way, I'm not talking about playing Call of Duty at your desk. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking the principles of user engagement, teaching them to do something, setting a goal, rallying around progress, celebrating success, recognition. If you think of those really addictive games in your apps, they're the ones that have all those same principles. Use them at work. And you don't have, I've used apps, like I said, in a whole bunch of variety of tools. And I did it at the government, by the way, which is a whole other glass of wine. But you can do this in a low-tech way. There's lots of examples, lots of books. Again, I have some great examples of companies that are doing this. Here's a couple of books just to leave you with. I have more free resources. If you have any questions, because I went through this pretty quickly, if you have any questions, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think I'm connected to many of you already, but there's always a book for what you need. And if you need some scrappy advice on how to implement an employee experience program, give me a call.